I've heard two people say that one of the good things about Manchester is how easily you can get away from it, because within, well, depending quite where you live, but in lots of places you can get onto the motorway network within, well, in my case, 5 minutes. And the motorway is, there's a red light. The motorway is, not the motorway, the airport is only maybe 15 minutes away, maybe 20. And you know, I've lived in other places as well, and I do know what it's like to have to travel long distances to get to an airport, or indeed a motorway, or you know, a railway station, that kind of thing. And I have done it occasionally. I've used Liverpool Airport when I've been living in Manchester, and on one occasion the East Midlands Airport when I bizarrely missed a flight because I got my details mixed up. It's ridiculous, but I did. I thought it was going a different time, and I think it was actually Ryanair on that occasion. I've been to Switzerland, the Swiss Alps, and I was scheduled to come back to Manchester, I think, and they gave me an alternative flight back to East Midlands. I think I had to pay about another £30, so yeah, that was okay. But then it entailed about a 3-hour journey, 3 or 4, and extra expense to get back to Manchester from East Midlands. So I'm just pontificating on the sort of travel benefits of this northern city in which I live. And yeah, it's true. But is it not a slightly bizarre thing to say that the good thing about Manchester is you can get out of it very quickly? Well, slightly bizarre. I mean, the point is understandable, and I agree, but you know, equally, the point about being in a place surely is that you like being there, as opposed to you want to leave it all the time. I'm leaving it now. You can also get to some lovely countryside very quickly, which in my case, you know, for me, it is a very, very distinct advantage of Manchester. You can get to the Peak District in about 45 minutes. You can get to Wales in the Lake District in about 2 hours or less. And you can get to Scotland in, depending where you go, 6, possibly even 5 hours, which is a long trip, but not as long as it is if you live in Birmingham or London or Brighton or, you know, other parts of the UK. "35 minutes later, I'm in Cheshire. I've just passed through the town of Poynton, which is a nice little Cheshire town. People probably think it's sort of exclusive and, I don't know, you know, bourgeois, all that stuff, but I just see it as a normal, nice, pleasant place where I don't think there's too much of the horrible city crap which goes with the larger town of Manchester, because, you know, it's just normal. I don't think it's abnormal, I think it's normal. Anyway, just passed through Poynton, 35 minutes into this trip now. You go through this little tunnel. Lovely green trees. very early spring. It's summer rather. It's June the 6th. It seems like there's barely been a transition between spring and summer, and the winter was strangely mild as well. You know, it's these bizarre weather times that we live in. And yeah, just 35 minutes away, and you're in the countryside. You're surrounded by agricultural fields and farms. And just up here on the left is the rear entrance to Lyme Park in Cheshire, which is a large park bordering onto the Peak District. I decided not to go into Lyme Park today. I've decided to go further actually into the Peak District, and I'll show you a nice view in a moment looking back to Manchester, and I'll talk a little about that just in a moment, because I've stopped here before and it's now approximately 38 minutes, you know, from Manchester. Just going to pull over here. If I have done it before, but yeah, this is the place. This is the place. Okay, come with me and I'll just say a few words. Doing this all one-handed, which is a bit awkward. Give me a second. So yes, that's Manchester over there. You can see the grey haze of it in the distance, and you can just make out some of the distinctive high-rise buildings, and in fact the highest building in Manchester you can just make out. It's called Beetham Tower. I think you can just about make it out there. It's just a slight you know, grey impression in the distance. That's the far distance, and my zoom is okay, but it's not massive. I just passed through the little town called Pot Shrigley, which consists of very little. There's a church there, opposite which is a little primary school. I think there's a few houses as well, but that's basically it. Just you know, a few houses, a church and a school. And there was, I think it was a wedding taking place inside the church. People walking around with you know, flowers in lapels and suits and stuff, and a crowd assembling in the church. And opposite the church you find the school, directly opposite, and there was a gaggle of little red uniformed children, school children, watching the occasion, which is probably the excitement of the day. It's a really cute little school, and when I pass it, and especially if it's playtime, which I suppose it is now, lunchtime probably actually, I always think what a wonderful place for a child to grow up. I mean, those children probably come from, you know, wealthy backgrounds, from wealthy people in the area. Very selective. You know, it's not as cute and innocent as it appears. It speaks of money rather than romance. But the fact remains, you know, what a lovely little school. It's a lovely little hamlet. It's summer. I don't know if my camera's pointing in the right place. This is impossible to manage. I'm squatting down and twisting my neck, and you know, don't ask, but anyway, enjoy the lovely Skylark song. And the occasional bloody car.